So, thank you. So for those of you, if you haven't already signed in, if you wouldn't mind putting your name and your health council or organization in the chat, we'd love to know who is here joining us today. So I am going to go ahead and kick us off with today's session. Once again, Susan Wilger with the New Mexico Alliance of Health Councils. And I am going to be sharing my screen because we have a presentation that we want to share with you that will help guide us as we go through our presentation today. Let me get this into full screen. There we go. And whoops. Okay. So sorry about that. I have the toolbar is in the way, and I'm trying to get us into the full screen view, but that might not happen, but we'll go with this for now. So once again, thanks. What we're focusing on today is really looking at moving ahead and some of the learning opportunities through surveys, the statewide meeting, interviews. We've had a lot of opportunities to hear from you. And so what we're presenting today is kind of a culmination of what we've heard people say, the Health Council say, what would be really helpful to them moving forward in terms of peer learning opportunities. And once again, this is just a plan. You'll have plenty of opportunity to provide input through today's session before we finalize it. But here are several ideas that we'll be presenting today. And then we also would love your feedback on a few other areas, such as, the timing of the trainings and so forth. So this isn't set in stone. It's still a work in progress, but we do hope, based after today's feedback, to kind of roll out a training calendar and some other learning opportunities within the next 30 to 60 days, so you'll know what to expect moving forward. And please feel free, if you have questions throughout the presentation, don't hesitate to raise your hand, and my colleagues will help us monitor the chat. If you have questions, you can also put that in chat, and also feel free to just shout out if you have questions. Okay. So the feedback that we're looking for really have to do with these bulleted items. One is learning options. So it's not just training we'll be talking about today. There's also other formats in which we hope that you'll be able to learn from each other, to help you do your work efficiently, successfully, and so forth. We've collected a lot of information, and there are certain topics that have really rose to the top. And so those will be presented, and we would love to hear your feedback on that. We've heard that many health councils are feeling overwhelmed with a very rigorous training schedule. So once again, here's an opportunity for you to give us feedback, what you think would work best for you. We are moving more towards peer learning, really utilizing your lived experiences, your wisdom, your knowledge. And so we are opening up an opportunity for peer facilitators coming from health councils, and I'll be talking about that. And then if there's anything we haven't mentioned, please feel free, if there's other needs that you have, let us know, because we we are listening and would love to meet your needs. That's what this is all about. I do want to mention that today's presentation about the learning opportunities does focus on Health Council capacity building, capacity improvement. That's not to mention, we know that you're finalizing your community health improvement plans, and that in year 3, once you have your plans developed, that you'll be moving towards implementing your plans. Department of Health, Health Promotion Team, they've been really key and fundamental in helping you develop those community health improvement plans, also known as CHIP. And they will be providing input in terms of the implementation phase. However, today is really about improving your Health Council's capacity so that you're successful in all the key functions that Health Councils do. And so that is the capacity piece is where the Alliance does take somewhat of a lead in partnership with DOH, but we will not be focusing a whole lot on the community health improvement plans because the DOH Health Promotion Team does take a lead in that area. There are areas where they overlap. So I just wanted to make that statement before we move forward. So why improve capacity? Obviously, part of capacity building, and everybody here did a capacity assessment. You have identified areas of capacity improvement that you want to work on and have been submitting your quarterly reports. And what we wanted to do is really provide a supportive, collaborative learning environment where you can share among health councils what your experiences are, what skills you might need to improve upon, but also where you've been successful and how, and sharing tools and ideas with your other health councils. So you'll see that theme emerge throughout this presentation about really relying on peer learning. The other really big emphasis is that we want to have you positioned where you're really able, to the best of your abilities, to carry out the core functions that are listed in House Bill 137, which is the County and Tribal Health Council Act. There are, and I'll get to that in just a minute, but that is kind of the core of our work. It establishes through statute the purpose of health councils. And so we want to make sure that you're all equipped to be able to carry out those core functions. And lastly, once again, that peer learning, peer mentoring, because you all are in the front lines. Many of you have done this work for a long time, and you bring such a rich background of skills and experience. We really want to capitalize on that. So just as a reminder, those core functions that are mentioned in the County and Tribal Health Council Act, one is planning. And all of you have spent the last 10 months or so really focusing in on your community health assessments, your priorities, and now you're finalizing your community health improvement plans. That is part of House Bill 137. You are the go-to entity within every tribal health council and county health council to really help the state understand what communities see as their primary health issues. And so thank you all for all your work on that. It's extremely important, not only at the local level, but that feeds up to the state level and helps the state to establish its state health improvement plan. So you'll be hearing about your work and how everything that you're doing with your CHIPs will help to inform the state health improvement plan. So that work will continue. Another key area in House Bill 137 is collaborative leadership. That is what health councils are all about. You are that coalition within your tribal and county level communities where people go to understand public health and health issues, health planning, what you see as issues within your communities, but also bringing people together so that collaborative leadership, working together, forming those community partnerships, and also working with your local government partners. And that could be at the county level, municipal level, school board level. And then you also have your state representatives and senators that you work with that also inform policy strategies. And then, of course, bringing in those resources. So that's another very key area. And you hear about this all the time, and you do it every day in your work, is the collaboration. So we always want to do the best that we can. Another area mentioned or function in House Bill 137 is really about public policy. We really, all kinds of strategies in addressing your health priorities are important, but one key strategy is around policy strategies. And so really we want to enable you so that you have a better understanding of what we mean by policy strategies and what that means at not only the local level, but also a regional or statewide level, and how you can influence policy and policy decision makers at all those levels. And last but not least is sustaining your health council. That's so important. We all know we've struggled with funding for multiple years, and we still have that battle ahead of us. But how do we sustain the work of the health councils and grow that over time? So part of your role at that local level is listening to community, being responsive, making sure that you have the resources you need to do your work. And so that's also part of building capacity. So with all that said, let's look at these learning options that we've heard from you so far. So we've taken all your input through surveys, through conversations, interviews, so forth. And we've kind of categorized them into three major learning opportunities. The first is around peer learning sessions. These would continue to be remote. And as you know, for the past couple of years, we've set aside the first and third Mondays of the month dedicated to learning opportunities. And so we're proposing that we keep the first and third Mondays as peer learning opportunities. We do want to move more towards a peer facilitation where you have more discussion and are learning from your peers. And we also want to make sure that these capacity learning opportunities are very practical and actionable. So when you leave a learning session, you have tools or processes or ideas that you can begin to implement immediately in many cases. So that's one learning opportunity. And of course, these sessions would be recorded, so you would have the opportunity to go back if you happen to miss a session. They would be recorded and you could go back. Or you can attend in real time and be part of that very open and robust discussion. The second area is it's a peer learning platform. What the Alliance would like to do is create a one-stop shop where you would have resource libraries where you could find tools and trainings and videos and podcasts and documents. Maybe it's a sample MOU or a sample contract, We're in the process of reviewing different platforms, and we hope to have one chosen within the next 30 days, where all health councils can have easy access. It would be a one-stop shop and have that. Also part of this learning platform, is you could have discussions and learning circles. So if there's a specific topic that really appeals to a lot of people, you could join those discussion and learning circles, and reach out to your colleagues and, get tips and questions and ideas, off time at any time. Those would be continuous. And then, of course, it does have a social networking component. And I don't know if any of the Alliance staff or anybody else has any input on the learning platforms that you would like to comment on at this point.
Yeah, thank you, Susan. Good morning. Greetings, everybody. Valeria here with NMHC. Yes, the team has originally identified 3 or 4 peer learning platforms and conducted an analysis with the support of interns as well. And so we're dialing in on one of the platforms. It's called Mighty Networks. And I think with one of our upcoming sort of feedback loops, it would be great to provide an overview and get folks' input. But the goal here is to make it very user-friendly, accessible on all devices, deeply engaging, meaningful, and relevant to you and your specific needs, ways to support each other in and around peer learning support, learning circles, focus on specific topics. So although we'll be providing these very topic-centric training series, simultaneously you'll have resources that you can tap into for your specific needs at this current time as well. Easy to understand, easy to apply, very actionable resources to support you in your capacity building priorities. So more information to come on that, and turn it to our NMHT team and see if there's anything that I may have missed. Any of you would like to chime in or give additional information? Thank you, Susan.
Thank you, Val. This is Geraldine. And so just want to echo what you said. I think my primary role in this will be also supporting the library. So kind of, gathering current resources, but other useful resources across the state and nationally that will help health councils. So that's something we're definitely looking forward to. Just, having a one-stop shop as noted here to, get the information from, our training materials, but also other information that's really relevant to some of the functions of health councils. So looking forward to kind of rolling that out and having that accessible for all health councils.
And of course, if there are specific tools that health councils have used that they really like, or maybe it's a website, or maybe it's a specific training, there'll be an opportunity for you to contact the Alliance so that we can make sure that if you have a favorite, that it gets into our resource libraries. So as we roll this out and launch it, you'll hear more about this. Okay, and then the third learning opportunity is through technical assistance. And once again, with the focus on capacity improvement of health councils, we are always available for one-on-one support with the Alliance staff. And because we do have overlap with in certain areas, we will bring in and work jointly with our DOH health promotion team partners from time to time, but we also want to build leadership within the health council. So if we have peer facilitators or peer mentors from health councils who are known as really successful in certain areas. By all means, we also encourage peer-to-peer support as part of that technical assistance. And from time to time, so we may team up with others so that you get as much support as you need to meet your unique needs. So I'm going to go through some of these areas, break them down one by one. And the first we wanted to do is kind of really hone in on the capacity building topics. So many of you are familiar with the assessment that you did back in February of last year, and which helped you identify your capacity building goals. There were 8 domains, and over the past year or so, what we've heard is health councils requesting focus in on 4 key areas. And those 4 key areas are listed on the screen: community engagement, and the 2 areas really having to do with your community partners, who you engage and how. And we know that there are probably concentric circles, different levels of engagement. Some people you absolutely want at the table. Others, you definitely want their support, but they may not be continuous members of the health councils. And so that's a topic, really how to strategically determine who to have at the table, but also how to recruit them, how to engage them, how to retain them in your work. And so it's not only identifying those community partners, which would be a session, but also how to engage your health council members, because we know that shared leadership is so important. We don't want all the work, and it shouldn't fall only on the health council coordinators. So how do you begin to share that responsibility of all the work that you do with other key members within your health council? So for each topic, each of the 4 major topics, we're thinking there would be probably 2 sessions at a minimum under each of those topics. So under community engagement, here are the bullets, are 2 ideas. Each would be a separate session under community engagement. The second area is communications. One area that comes up is, how do we best use social media? We know there's more and more social media options. And so there would be a session around really digging into social media. And then another session on identity and branding of your health councils. How do you make your health councils more visible? How do you show the value of your health councils to not only your communities, but to other key people who you want to make sure knows about the work of your health councils? So those are the 2 kind of, when you break down communications, which is very broad, those are our 2 potential ideas or session topics. The third area has to do with your organizational development and governance structure. And thank you, everyone. We got a really good turnout on that governance survey, which happened at the beginning of this year. And so there would be one session where we would have breakout rooms by governance structure. And so the 4 types of governance structure for health councils are either you're a nonprofit, a 501c3, you are under county or city government, you're under tribal government, or you have a fiscal sponsor. And each one of those governance structures have unique pros and cons. And so we would talk about how to maximize your health council under each of those different types of governance structures. And then a second topic that has really emerged is how, once again, how we can continue to improve our leadership through various structures. Many health councils have some type of committee structure. And so we'll be talking about, how we use leadership and use the structure of health councils so that we can maximize our work. And then finally, the fourth area that has emerged coming up to the top is resource development, how you make sure that you have the resources you need in order to carry out the work that you want to do. And so this, there are 3 bullets listed here, and that may equate to 3 sessions, or maybe we merge some of those if we want to keep it to 2 sessions per topic. First is state funding. You get your traditional funding contract through the Department of Health that you've been getting almost every year for multiple years. And this comes through state general funds. But as you know, this past year, we're trying to get investment by the state to increase your funding. So right now, this past year, it was a little over 12,000. In FY23, it'll probably be around a little over 15,000, but we really would love to see that get up to 100,000. But that's going to be an uphill battle. But we'll talk about different types of state funding. There is general funds, junior funds, and capital outlay. That would be one session. But there's other ways of getting funding. One is grants, contracts, and partnerships, and the other possibly other fundraising opportunities, either from individuals or corporations or other types of entities. So we know resource development is extremely important, and so that would be a fourth topic. So one is I want to open it up here for discussion, people's reactions around these 4 topics. Does that resonate with you? Are we missing something? Is there a topic or subtopic that you feel would be really useful that is not listed here?
Hi, Susan, this is Enrique.
Hi, Enrique, thank you for joining us. What are your thoughts?
I like how it is. My question, and I've asked it in the last couple of meetings, is on the first column there, what are the membership setups that we have for health councils? So, when you say engaging health council members, who are the members? How are different councils organizing that or figuring that out?
Yeah, and that's a great question, Enrique. And I didn't know if any of the other health councils who are on board, that is certainly something that could be addressed in that session, because it would be a peer learning session. But if anybody else has some thoughts who are on this call, we'd love to hear from you, or on this meeting, not call, on the Zoom.
Susan, this is Chris Hollis, and I'm speaking as a board member for the Health Equity Council, and I want to back up Enrique on that question. That is actually a key question for our Health Council, and I know that it was asked before. I mean, even if, and in some cases, when I think a request like this comes in, because I know that Enrique asked it before and I supported it then, sometimes speed is a little bit more of the essence here. So is it even possible for the Alliance to sort of ask a number of the other health councils, to just kind of, indicate what their membership is, how they set it up, what the requirements might be if there are any, or something like that. But sometimes these questions are a little more, I think, time sensitive than others, but it would be very good to have that discussion in a big session. But it would also be nice to get some input from any of the other health councils, because I know that they vary quite a
Mhm.
bit. But
Yeah.
we need to kind of know that to know how we can build on that membership, how that membership can be more useful to the Health Equity Council.
Are there any-
This is Laura Wilson with the Health Promotion. I had a question. I mean, this is all good, but do you guys have any examples of like how the Health Council might you were talking about identity and branding and how they might show their work. Do you have any examples like how we do a video and we show our work? Any other examples of how they would show the community how their work is helping their community?
Yeah, and the idea is in the peer facilitated sessions, because there'll be peer learning sessions, we would probably request, and I'm going to get to that a little bit later, talk about the peer facilitators, but we would have health councils who would, we would probably have anywhere from, between, 2 and 5 peer facilitators for each sessions. And these are going to be people who have been very successful in those topic areas. And so to answer your question, is they would present examples, and we know that many health councils have done a really outstanding job about branding their health councils and really getting that visibility out into their community, either through videos or newsletters and events, just a lot of different ways, and presenting a variety of different ways, and what's worked, and also lessons learned, because sometimes people have a great idea, maybe they launched something and it didn't go the way they wanted it to. So each session would probably begin with a little bit of a commentary, but really the sessions are going to be facilitated discussion about how to work through some of the challenges, but also sharing ideas. So yes, we do plan to have examples, plenty of examples of that other health councils could possibly use. I hope that answers your question. Okay. What I'd like to do is we do have a couple polls, and Rebecca, I'm going to ask you if you wouldn't mind launching the first poll on the topics, because we really would like to know from folks which training topic is most relevant or useful to you personally. This because we just want to know kind of like if we had to make some choices, what comes first, or if we are limited on time, getting a sense from people in terms of prioritizing which training topics, where you see we should maybe put things sooner rather than later, or if we had to add more sessions. This will give us a sense of what areas you think would be most useful to you. So we'll give folks a minute. I know we have about 23 people, 27 participants. And so we'd really like to see the response rate get up to no less than 20. And so far I see about 7. So I'm hoping everybody is able to respond. Jojo, I see your hand is raised.
Yes, can you give more clarification on resource development fundraising and communications, and also on the organizational development governance structure?
Sure. And I don't know if are you on Zoom? Do you see the 4 areas on the slide? This kind of gives a little bit more detail on how we want to focus in on those 4 areas. So communications would really focus in on social media and how to brand your health council and really give it visibility. Resource development, also known as fundraising, we would talk about ways that you could get funding through the state, but also other types of ways like grants, contracts, and partnerships, and the possibility in exploring fundraising from individuals with organizational development governance. We would have a session specific to the 4 different governance structures that health councils fall under, but also leadership committee and structures, and then community engagement, really looking at who should be at the table, who you may want, how to determine who should compose your health council, either as a member or as a partner. They may not need to attend all your meetings, but you may definitely want to reach out to them. But then how to really engage your members. So Jojo, does that help?
Yes, thank you so much.
Sure. All right. All right. So let's see with our poll. Let's see. All right. So we about half of you responded. If those of you who haven't responded, if you could respond in the next 30 seconds, and then we'll go ahead and close the poll. But what we're seeing is it's really, really close so far. We have about, it's almost evenly divided. Communists in the so that's good. So I guess that kind of validates that the 4 topics that are kind of coming from to the top still seem to be very relevant to all the health councils. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go. We have 13, about a little less than half, but we're going to go ahead and end this poll for now.
Rebecca and Susan. Oh, there it is. Sorry. Someone requested to see the results and it just popped up. So
Okay. Do folks see it? So we have, like I said, it was 30. The top one was community engagement, which comes up as a top one very consistently. And then we have a tie between organizational development governance structure and resource development. And then followed with a closely behind that is communications. So thank you everyone for participating in that poll. So I'm gonna move along and kind of hit on some of these next topics. One is our training times and duration. So we don't want to overburden health councils. We know you're busy doing your work. In year 3, you'll be moving into implementing your CHIP, your community health improvement plans. But we do know that continuing to improve your capacity will only help you with your implementation. So we recognize that, but we don't want to overburden. So what we're looking at is offering up to 24 hours worth of training over about a 12-month period. And so we would love to hear your feedback on if you have a preferred option. So what we're looking at is having more shorter trainings. So one possibility is having 1-hour trainings twice a month for around 12 months. A second option is having 2-hour trainings once or twice a month, but it wouldn't be every month. It would be maybe over 8 to 10 months you'd have some breaks in between. A third option is having a 2-hour training twice per month, every other month. So you would have 4 hours of training one month and then a month off, and then 4 hours of training on a different topic and then a month off. So we're going to pull up another poll. We would love to hear your preferences of these 3 options. Just first of all, get people's feedback if you have a preference of option A, B, or C. And so, Rebecca, if you wouldn't mind launching that. And Chris, I see you have your hand up.
I know that people will vote on this and everything, but Susan, one of the things when one thinks about the length of the trainings in some cases, I keep thinking that a lot of what you've put forward on here and what people are asking for are in a sense skill building. So it's not just knowledge, it's skill building. And I just think that for some of these trainings, I don't think in the past we've had really, somehow the trainings have not allowed people to either practice or to get at the actual skills part of it in that way, which probably requires at least sort of 2 hours or anything. So I would only think about in terms of the timing, what exactly each training would be trying to focus on, and how to do it in that way. So I guess I'm a little more concerned about the content and the quality of how it's done as aside from just the length of it.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you brought that up, Chris, because all of us know that when you're going through a training workshop, and obviously we want to either increase knowledge or increase our skills, we're given tools and guidance and maybe even some practice time during those sessions, but the real work comes when we apply how we apply those skills in real life, everyday situations. And to me, and so I think we need to talk about that in the learning sessions. How will these skills be applied? And then you saw up front, one of our learning opportunities is technical assistance. And here I think the Alliance would love to talk to you further, and that being the health promotion team, on how we can do check-ins to see, are they applying those skills? Are they falling into, were there any obstacles? Were they successful in applying those skills? And so I think part of it is, after those trainings, having some follow-up. One is through the trainings, really identifying how you can apply those skills, and then through technical assistance, doing those check-ins to see, were they successful in applying those skills, or do they need additional support? Okay, thanks everybody for taking the poll. So I'm going to give you just a couple, 5 more seconds. If anybody hasn't completed the poll, this is your last chance. Okay. So I'm going to end the poll. You should be able to see the results. So most people really prefer a shorter training twice a month. And so we have that followed by a 2-hour training once or twice a month, but for there may be some months in between. And lastly was a 2-hour training twice a month, every other month. So that got the least amount of support. So that's really, really helpful for us to know. And we will certainly take that into consideration as we move forth with putting together the training calendars. So thank you, everyone. Any other ideas? Was there an option not listed here that folks would like us to consider? Sarah Jo.
Hey guys, have you considered doing on-demand video trainings? That way, like you're talking about creating this archive with, information and stuff, rather than making them on demand, rather than making them like by meeting, have them be on demand. And then when the person's done taking the training, they can do like a quiz or a certification and get a certificate printed saying that they've completed that particular course of training. Plus you have it available on demand whenever the person feels they need to take that particular training.
We have, and I'm going to defer to my colleagues, Val or any of the other staff, if you'd like to address that, because I know we've talked about that.
Yeah, I was actually gonna, right before Sarah raised her hand, I was gonna say that this would be in addition to whatever types of self-paced is what we've been calling them, like training courses that we can develop through that peer learning platform that we discussed. So we were talking about how we sure that there's accompanying peer learning platforms for each of the topics that we're talking about, so that these 1-hour trainings are not just a 1-hour training. There's additional resources, videos, self-paced guidance that you can take throughout it. So really it would just be, I think the way we've talked about is this would be a lot more of a way for people to come together and learn from their peers and talk to their peers about these topics on Zoom for whatever hour allotment we talk about, and then be able to enhance those skills and everything on the peer learning platforms as well.
Any other comments or responses on that? Okay, because and two topics that we know also have come up is new health council coordinator orientation. Because, so there'll probably be a video on that. So if anybody's new, they can make sure, and it would be short, but it would be a good foundation for any new coordinators. And then another topic that has come up is if your health council is in transition, if you have a change in leadership, that topic comes up a lot. So it might be really good to do that. Another topic that was under consideration is to describe the different types of health council governance, because just because you're under one governance structure doesn't mean that you can't change it. And so we might do a quick overview when we say the 4 types of governance structures, so that health councils have an idea of what that means, and that they're not limited to only having to always be in one type of governance structure. Okay, so we only have 10 minutes left, so I'll go ahead and move us forward, because I do want to talk about our peer facilitators. So we definitely want to use your knowledge, your lived experience to share with your colleagues, with your other health councils. So we are looking to move towards that type of format. And we've already started putting together, one is we're looking for volunteers. And remember, I don't know if you remember, but when we launched the Vaccine Equity and Community Rebuilding Project almost 2 years ago, we asked health councils to kind of rate, self-identify, do they think they were an emerging health council, kind of a intermediate, pretty well functioning, or kind of a kind of level 3, very experienced type of health council. And and this is where we really want to capitalize on those that, if you feel that you've done really well in a certain area, based on those 4 learning topics, if you would like to be one of those peer facilitators, we are looking and seeking for volunteers. You can use this opportunity to put it in chat. You can contact any of the Alliance staff directly. But as a peer facilitator, you wouldn't be operating in isolation. What we hope to do is in May, offer a training for peer facilitators. We're incorporating peer facilitation principles as well as mentoring principles. And it would be about an 1.5 hour training. We would offer it multiple times to make sure that anybody who's interested would have options so that you can attend at your convenience. But it's really guiding. We don't want peer mentors to dominate. Obviously, peer facilitators, they facilitate discussion, but they will know when to step in when it's appropriate based on their experience. And so we'll be offering, we hope to offer a training sometime in May to any interested peer facilitators. So please let us know if you're interested. And like I said, you could put that in chat right now. Any questions on the peer facilitators?
Susan, this is Geraldine. Just for clarity for health councils, is and when you're saying peer facilitation, it's going to be with those topic areas that we first kind of outlined very early on?
Correct. The
Okay.
communications, governance, organizational, or governance structure, organizational development, resource development, and community engagement. Okay. So, any other requests that folks have as we wind up our session today? Feedback, are we on the right path? Because what we're doing is we'll take your feedback, and then we'll be putting it all together, putting together calendar, recruiting peer facilitators, and we'll definitely, you'll get information probably within the next 30 to 60 days in terms of what to expect moving forward. So does it sound like we're on the right track to meet your needs for capacity?
And Susan, in the chat, I did see Shay said he thinks peer facilitation training would be valuable. So
Thank you, Shay.
Susan, I was gonna just ask again, I'm thinking a little bit of time sensitivity, but you had mentioned 4 governance structures or something. Were those 4 governance structures sort of in general, like what nonprofits use, or are they based on what the health councils in the state of New Mexico have? In other words, across all the health councils in the state, there are basically 4 different kinds of governance structures. And if you have that, would it be possible to see that? I know you mentioned doing a training, but I think it would be helpful to at least the Health Equity Council at this point in time to see that kind of thing.
Yeah, so it's the latter, what you mentioned, Chris. So we did that. We launched a survey. It actually launched in December, and we got, I think, almost all of the health councils that are participating in the DOH CDC grant responded, and they do fall within those 4 governance, what we call governance structures. One is as a nonprofit, so they are actually a 501c3 under IRS. They do have that designation. Second is they fall under a county, and in one case a city government. Third is a tribal government for our tribal health councils. And lastly, they have a fiscal sponsor. So they're not officially a nonprofit. They actually have a fiscal sponsor, which tends to be a nonprofit. So we do have, in fact, several health councils that are under fiscal agents. And we did, Kiana presented the results of that survey at one of the meetings, and we do have the results of that survey. So if anybody's interested, we're happy to share the results of that governance survey. And I'll email it to you, Chris, because
Okay. Yeah, no, that would be good. I know she did. I probably paid attention at the time, and then it probably went right out the other. But yeah, if you can tell me where to find it, that would be great. But I think that also goes to that question that Enrique had raised about membership too, because for each one of those, it would be different. Yeah, thank you.
And there are pros and cons to every one of those structures. Yeah. And thank you, Margaret, for your comment about community engagement. That's one that comes up continuously. And Barbara, we will also be sure. Barbara, can you put your email so that we can make sure that you get a copy of that governance survey as well, results as well? We're happy to send it. Okay.
Susan, this is Margaret. On that community engagement, I'd like to be a peer supporter if that's okay.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Yeah,
Yes.
and if anybody else would like to, we have some ideas, and we'll be reaching out to certain health councils because we think you're awesome. And so we will definitely, I know we'll be also be reaching out if anybody didn't meet this meeting, but if you are at this meeting, would love to, like Margaret, volunteer to be a peer facilitator, please let us know. And staff, any other final remarks or comments?
Hold on this, Enrique.
Yes.
Yeah, I would like to be part of a conversation on the community engagement.
Wonderful. Thank you.
And I think, Susan, I don't know, Enrique, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think some of this goes to the point of kind of a continuum. So I know that for some of the health councils, the community engagement can even be right now just around getting enough community members involved in the health council to do things. And then as one works around, Enrique, correct me if I'm wrong in your thinking, but moving into other areas of, sort of advocacy, sort of like community organization, community mobilization, those kinds of things. So that would be a great conversation, all the way from one end or a level to another.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. That's exactly what I'm thinking. The difference between mobilization and organizing, and versus even like just communication and getting the word out. There's a whole continuum there, and yeah, that's definitely what I'm interested in talking about. Thanks, Chris.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you. Well, we're right at 11 o'clock. Thank you, everyone. We just really value your input, great ideas, and we will certainly be in touch.
Thank you, everybody. Have a lovely weekend. Thank you, Susan.
Bye.
Bye.